Hey guys! So we left off here with our contrast still life. So in the last video, I showed you how to take two objects, move them around, draw 4 different compositions that you can choose from for your final drawing. So these are my 4 sketches, and I chose this one. I really liked the one where I kind of zoomed in really close, and it's a little bit off-center too, which makes it a little more interesting. So the next thing I'm going to do, if it's possible, I'd like you to find a place where you can create strong lighting. So you may notice that I'm sitting in a different place than usual. So I have arranged my objects here on the windowsill with my lights off. So that is one pretty simple way to create strong lighting that hopefully most of you have access to a window. And this can create some really nice, strong, natural light, which is what creates that contrast that we were talking about in class. So if you can, find a place where you have strong lighting. It could be either a window, or if you're lucky enough to have a lamp on your desk, or wherever, any convenient place where you could set up your still life, that you can shine one lamp directly on your still life and have the rest of your lights off so that you create some strong highlights and shadows. So I'm going to show you mine here. All right, so this is my my cup and my spoon as I drew them in the same position, right? And actually, it's a little bit more like that. And so if you see, over here, we have a nice strong highlight. So the cup is much lighter on the window side and much darker on the room side because I have this strong light coming in from the window, and I've turned off the lights in the room so I don't have competing light coming over here. So I want you to take a close look at your object and see all of the places where it's really bright and where it's really dark, because that's what we're going for in this contrast still life, is enhancing those places where you have lights and darks. So another place that I have some lights and darks is on the inside of the cup, right? So it's kind of opposite on the inside. I have a dark shadow over here and a highlight on this side. Okay, I also have, I've got some shadows and highlights over here on the handle, and then if you take a look at the spoon, it's kind of like the inside of the cup, right? So I've got a shadow on the window side and a highlight over here. My handle is mostly in shadow. I've got a cast shadow on the table under it, or the windowsill, but what I'll draw is the table, right? So now I'm going to start a clean canvas. Okay, and again, I'm going to start with pencil. I'm not ready to start coloring just yet. I want to lay out my composition first. So you always start with line and shape, right? So before we start worrying about the shadows and filling in the shadows, we just need to get the outline. So I'm going to start right, and so with a cup, anything that's a circle that you're looking at from the side is going to be kind of a squashed, very, very skinny oval. And depending on how low your angle is, that circle will get skinnier or bigger if you look at it from above. But the point is that I want you to be looking at your object, right? That's the reason they're here, right in front of us. I want you to keep looking back at your object to make sure you're getting those shapes right. Right, so I've got my handle, I've got my cup. Now I'm going to do that spoon. Okay, and I'm going to throw in a line, right? So this kind of anchors your picture. Even if that line isn't directly from what you're looking at, I'm sure there are lots of other things behind your still life. But just putting in a simple line like we did in the Balanced Food Project creates a setting. It makes it look like it's on a table with a wall behind it. So it's not just kind of floating in space. All right, so look at this, look back at your objects, make sure that all your shapes are right before you start doing any shading at all, right? You want to go step by step and make sure what you've done already is right before you move to the next step. So the next thing I'm going to do is add shading. And for this project, you're welcome to do just black and white with only shading, or you can use color and shading. For this example, I'm going to use some color, and I like those oil pastels and fresh paint. But again, you don't have to be doing this on fresh paint. You could be doing it on real paper if that's your preference. So I love this kind of orangey pink color of my cup. Let's see if I can find something similar. Okay, so I grabbed the middle, kind of the color of the cup itself, not the highlights or the shadows. So I'm going to put that kind of in the middle, right? So I've got a highlight on the left on the window side, and I've got a shadow on the right. So I'm going to, just in the middle, I'm going to get that cup color. And now I'm going to grab a highlight, right? So I'm going to make it lighter. Got a nice kind of light peach for my highlight. And I'm going to kind of blend them in the middle. And maybe I'll actually find a mid-tone between them. Let's get something in the middle. All right, and when if you don't use that fan, you'll be able to blend a little bit. And I'm going to grab that blending stick as well. All right, with the blending stick, you're not adding any color, but you can kind of mess around with these wet colors. Okay, now I'm going to get a darker color. All right, so now I've got a pretty decent gradient from light to dark. And I'm going to do the opposite on the inside, right? So if you remember, we had kind of the opposite going on in the middle, on the inside of the cup. And if you're doing this on paper, I would recommend using some combination of colored pencils or just, standard pencils for black and white. Colored pencils, you can, adjust your colors. Markers would be difficult unless you have art markers that you can blend with. And I say that because I know a few of you got those special art markers for Christmas. But standard markers are difficult to, can't really be blended. So unless you got those special markers for Christmas, we're just gonna, so you could use paint, you can mix paint colors, but yeah. Okay, so now I've basically got my cup down. Obviously, I still have the handle, the spoon, the table, and the background. I'm gonna do the background now. And so because, the background and the table color can kind of be your invention, right? They don't have to exactly replicate what you're looking at. And so I think I'm gonna go for kind of a greenish color. In part because, right, when we were talking about contrast, one of the ways to contrast is by choosing complementary colors or colors that are, pretty far away from each other on the color wheel. So, I kind of like the idea of a green against that kind of reddish pink I have on the cup. And I'm going to, oops. All right, so I'm going to start with kind of a dark green. And so I'm putting dark green on the left side here where the cup is light for added contrast. All right, so I'm going to make my wall dark over here. And then I'm going to start to lighten it up. All right, and I'm going to make it light over here on the side where my cup is dark. All right, now I have a nice gradient, and I might blend those more as I keep going, but I want you to see as much as you can here without, oh, it's already 14 minutes long. Let me just quickly get this this spoon started. All right, so I'm going to grab, let's see, I'm going to start with a dark gray. All right, so the spoon was dark over here. And it was dark on the handle. And then I had a lighter gray over here. All right, so the sun is hitting the the spoon on this side. Got messy. Oh boy. There we go. So that is the basic idea of bringing your picture from sketch to final drawing, right? We want to focus on contrast, seeing those lights and those darks and contrasting them by putting darks next to lights and lights next to darks. Using your strong lighting and making sure you're looking at your still life, noticing where are things light, where are things dark. All right, see you in class.